Welcome back to the channel, folks. It's good to see you. So a while back, I talked about how I wanted to do a video on a sharpening system, specifically this guy right here, right? This is the Ultimate Sharpening System, and you can see it here. And I got this from Treeline back in November, middle of November maybe. I've been using it for a while. I didn't want to get it, use it real quickly, and then post a video on it immediately without you getting some kind of feedback on what I thought about it long term. When I got it back in November, I did not know how to sharpen a knife well. I barely knew how to sharpen a knife at all. I knew the general basics of it, but I hadn't had a lot of success, is what I should say. So I knew how to sharpen a knife, but I didn't have a lot of success sharpening knives yet. I got this and I ruined a knife on it because this thing here will remove a lot more steel, much more steel, I should say, than you think it will. And so much more steel that you can just eat up a knife real quickly. So be mindful of that. It can also ruin a knife because it can heat things up. As you put a knife on here and it starts to move and remove metal, it's going to heat up because of that friction. And that friction and that heat can remove the temper on your knife. And that temper is what helps it harden and hold that hardness, I should say, as you use it. So you don't want to lose the temper on your knife. And you're going to know that that's happened because the blade will discolor. So this blade has not discolored, but you'd see a blackness to the tip or a blackness to the section that got discolored, and it'd be very easy to see. But like you can see, like this steel colored, it's very easy to see something that's changed the color of that blade. So if it happens, you're going to know right away. Oh, that's what Johnny was talking about. That's what just happened. That's what I did. Yep. I'm warning you about it now. It's going to happen quickly. Have a bottle of water or a cup of water nearby so you can do your knife on it and dip it in water, and that does help. You don't have to do that. I've gotten to the point where I can do it and then feel the blade and okay, let me give it a moment and it'll cool down a little bit in my hands, and then go back on there, do the other side. You don't need a lot. A little dab will do you is the way that people say it, right? You just need to touch a blade up. This is not for reprofiling a blade. If you try to reprofile a blade on it here, you're just going to eat up the grit back down to nothing really fast and be able to put a new grit on there. This is for if I got a nick in my blade, if I've rounded the edge of my blade over. It's really great at that. If I want to sharpen my wife's kitchen knives, if I want to sharpen a pocket knife for a buddy or myself, absolutely, you can do that on here. I put this on my own bench grinder. I bought this bench grinder at Menards. You can see I've got arrows here dictating the direction that this is pointing. I do not have this bench grinder operating in the normal way. A normal bench grinder spins this way towards me. But doing that, I found it very hard to figure out how to hold the knife and get this accomplished. So what I did was I disconnected it from the base and I rotated the motor around to face me. So I got the switch on this side, on the front side, and I've got the motion here spinning away from me in the opposite direction here, away from me. And I got those arrows there to remind anyone else that sits here outside of me what's going on with the way this is rotating, because I don't want anyone getting hurt. So when I'm holding this, the blade is trailing, the blade is going away from me, and it's going to be stropping on this, or honing on this side here, and then sharpening on this side here. And when I sharpen over here, obviously I need to bring it out like so I can get this side over here as well. This is designed to operate at about 3,000 RPM. This is a 3,500 RPM device, and it works out great. The Ultimate Sharpening System comes with very detailed instructions about how to use it. Read them. Read the instructions. They are important to your safety. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk. So you'll notice the first thing, right? A bench grinder comes with stones on there, and it has these metal coverings over them as well. Those are gone right now, and you might think, oh my gosh, what about safety? I don't know if I want to do this. I don't want to have these guards gone. Those guards are specifically there because stone heats up when you're grinding on it, and when it heats up, it can shatter. This is not stone, this is MDF, and MDF is just cardboard, okay? So we're not worried about these shattering. We're not worried about that at all. You should be wearing protection. I definitely suggest you wear eye protection. That's something that's suggested in the paperwork as well. I definitely suggest that you are careful and are mindful. If you haven't used a power tool before, don't let this be the first one. Or watch some other videos that can give you more information about safety on these as well. You're taking your own safety into your own hands by doing this. Keep that in mind while you do this. Stay safe. You are important. Thank you for coming to my TED Talk again. Okay, so safety talk is done. Make sure you read the instructions before you use it. And yeah, we'll jump right into it. Now we got this system, right? Leave the Stone Age behind. Razor sharp edge making system. It will give anyone a razor sharp edge in a few seconds. It's made, looks like, in Utah. This one's brought to us by Treeline. I bought this off of Treeline, but it's branded by whatever website you buy it off of. And it comes with 2 wheels, some silicone carbide grit, some rouge for the wheel, and then some wax for the grinding wheel to help bring temperature down to your grinding stuff. So supposedly this can get you a razor sharp edge really quickly, and we're going to find out, because I've got a bench grinder bought specifically for this, and we're going to see if we can install it, use it, and whether or not it is any count, right? Is it working well? Does it not work well? I'm going to try to answer all those questions that you guys might have, that I have already, and we're going to see what we like about it, what we don't like about it, and what our thoughts are. Never turn cutting edge into the wheel. Always use ANSI compliant eye protection. Some good warnings on there, and that's definitely a pretty good grit. Now, the research I did on this prior to purchasing says that this is extra grit for the device. Now, as it wears off of the wheel here, you can apply new glue and then use that new glue and this dripped across the top to renew the wheel, basically, and you get right back up to sharpening condition. And this is a paper wheel. It's like a cardboard, like a laminated cardboard. And then this is for basically stropping or honing the knives after you get done. A slotted wheel, very smooth, very nice. And this is for applying to that wheel, like so. So definitely a weighty piece of rouge or stropping compound. When it comes to installation, read the instructions. Read the instructions. Read the instructions. I read them thoroughly. I'm not going to show you how to install wheels on a bench grinder. If you really need to see that process, I did it in a power stropping video. You can see it there. It's simple and straightforward. Just put the new wheels on the bench grinder, and we'll get into how this thing performs. I'm also going to briefly show you how I sharpen a knife on here, because it's not complicated. Here's the basics of it, right? It's going to be spinning away from me in this direction right here, and I hold the knife on here. It's easy to sharpen a flat plane knife on this. You just hold the flat plane on there and then pull it across as it's spinning away from you. You're going to see some sparks, a little bit of sparks, because this is, what is it? Because this is a 180 grit silicon carbide. 180 grit silicon carbide. So you got 180 grit right here, okay? And that's fantastic. That will remove a little bit of material. You want to make sure you're moving on that leading edge. So for my grinder, because it's traveling in this direction here, I've got the knife edge pointing upwards, and I would just pull it right across that as it spins. And then I bring it over to this side, and I do the same thing. And I hold it straight and pull it right across there. When sharpening a knife, you're looking to form a burr and then remove a burr. So I'm forming a burr on one side, forming a burr on the other side, and then I go over to the honing here and I remove that burr, and that's how I get my knife sharp. You do need a little bit of wax on there to help you keep things from getting too hot, and I've got the wax in here. When it comes to wax application, you can't leave it in the container that it comes in, because it's just too much. You can simply hold the wax up here and just run the wheel like so across it. You want the wax to be streaky on there and not too thick, and the wax will help you keep this from overheating. And so it's nothing crazy when it comes to on there. And you can see that I've barely put a little mark in the wax on that side. I was using it on the bottom side, but you're not using a whole lot of wax. And you put it right back in its handy dandy carrying case, and I put it right back down there in the bottom. If you do see a wobble in the device, let me get you in here close. If you do see a wobble here, it is likely from your washers here. You can see there's no real wobble here. So it's running smooth. Or you can tell there's no wobble there. Wobble, wobble, wobble. There's a little bit of light making it look like there's a wobble, but there's no wobble in the pad itself. If there is, though, you'll have to look at your washers. The washers here on this side or this side, those may be what's causing you to have that wobble. They often, when they get cranked down too tightly, can bend or warp, and that's where you'll find a wobble if you do have a wobble. So pay attention, because if you do have one, that could wind up ruining blades rather quickly and rather easily as well. So something to keep in mind. Having gone over all of that, we're going to take this extra coarse stone and I'm going to dull up this knife here by pulling the blade across it. And then we're going to sharpen it up on this so you can see how it works and how quick and easy it is to sharpen a blade on it. Using this piece of paper, you can see it's not cutting anymore, but it's tearing instead. You can see the rips on that right there along the edge. Looking absolutely terrible. Absolutely atrocious. Now, all of the things we talked about earlier are being brought into plan here. We're going to be keeping the flat plane of the blade flat on the MDF grit here on the left side. Keep it with the blade trailing up in the direction of the rotation, and then pull it across nice and gently, and then check to see if you formed a burr. And you can see me doing so here. And then we're going to do the other side. You can stop and dip it in water if you need to cool it down. This one isn't too hot because I'm not putting a lot of pressure on here. I'm quickly, easily, simply doing it. And I've gotten pretty good at judging how warm it's getting, how hot it's getting, and whether or not I've gotten too much. And at this point here, I'm just looking to see that the burr is going from one edge all the way to the other edge. And then I take it over to the honing side. And feeling a burr, I talk about in other videos, like how to see that and how to feel it. I talk about the sharpening, but you should definitely watch it if you're not sure how to sharpen. Like I said earlier, the goal of this video isn't to teach the basics of sharpening, it's just to show how to sharpen with this device. So, honing both sides of the blade right now and polishing up that edge. I'm not worried about polishing the rest of the blade, so you're going to see some tool marks on it from that grit, and that's just fine. That's not going to hamper carving or cause any issues with carving. And it's just doesn't make the blade look as pretty, but I can take it over to the buffing wheel and buff that stuff off real quick and easy if I want to with some buffing compound, make it look nice and mirror finished again. But as you can see, nice and sharp. So I've had this thing for quite some time. I've been using it for quite some time. And when I got it, I didn't actually have any diamond stones, any hand sharpening things. I thought this would be the solution. I thought I could learn how to sharpen on this and have the whole thing be done, be quick and easy, no fuss, no muss. That is not the case. If you don't know how to sharpen already, do not get a system like this, because it's not going to help you sharpen. It's going to help you ruin knives more quickly and efficiently. You'll be able to ruin knives faster than anyone you've ever seen. It's just wonderful, wonderful way to remove knives, because this will remove a lot of material rather quickly. If you're not careful, you will ruin the temper on your knife really fast, really easily. Just having it there for a little bit too long, and the blade will heat up too much, and you'll see a dark spot on it if that happens, like a black spot. And that happened on one of my flex cut knives when I was learning how to use this. So I ruined that knife. That temper is gone now on that portion of that knife. And what I ended up doing was I ended up grinding off the tip of the knife, just a little bit at a time, nice and slow, and it's working mostly. I don't notice a problem with it. Maybe it's going to have a problem later. Maybe it has problems. I'm just not noticing it. I don't know. But that was with a flex cut knife I was learning with. I'm able to use my Beckwith Forge knife on this now and do a video on it because I'm confident that I can get this knife back up to sharpening speed. So I'm going to dull it down and I'm going to sharpen it up. I've already done that. When I do this, you can see that the knife doesn't come back. This is afterwards. The knife doesn't come back to completely pretty. It is really rather pretty, but you can see all those grind marks on it just a little bit on that edge. And I can take time on the buffing wheel and I can buff those out back to a mirror polish. But when I carve on it or with the knife, take a few little swipes away, you can see that it gets the surface of wood just smooth, that glassy like plane right there. There's nothing wrong with the sharpness of the knife. This system works fantastic to quickly sharpen a knife, absolutely. It does it efficiently and it does it without issue if you already know how to sharpen a knife. Because I didn't, what I wound up doing was buying stones, spending time figuring out how to keep the proper angle, and then progressing on from there. Now that I know how to do that really well, I'm able to sharpen any of my knives on this system, and it's a little bit quicker than doing it by hand. I say a little bit quicker, not much. If I'm doing it on diamond stones and I start on coarse, I mean 5 or 10 passes, flip 5 or 10 passes, I'm on the next one. And I go through those about as quickly as this takes me. I still take it once I'm done the stones, and I come over here to my other grinder, and on my buffing wheel, let me adjust this right here. So on my buffing wheel right here on this grinder, I still go over to that one, and then I polish the knife there, even after the hand stones. So this is faster, but it's not saving me that much time over doing it by hand, because now that I know how to do it by hand, I can do it really quickly. So I don't know, knowing what I would know now, that I would purchase it. If you've got a lot of knives to sharpen at once, this is going to save your arms, your forearm strength. It's gonna conserve energy for you. It's gonna be absolutely beneficial. If you're just sharpening 1 or 2 knives, I don't know that it's worth it. And the diamond stones I got cost me $99, like about $100, and this system cost me about the same. So it's really tough to say what I would do. I've got both now. I'm happy that I got both, and I do tend to use this one when I don't want to get the stones out. Like if I got a little nick, just a small nick, it depends on which knife I'm using. Honestly, if it's a knife I want to take better care of, I get the stones out. If it's a knife I don't care to take better care of, I do it here. And so like, there's not many knives that I have that, no, that's not the way to put it. I'm putting this into words as I do the video. So I'm thinking about this as I do the video. It's not that how I care about the knife. It's the ones that have a flat plane, I'll do here. And the ones that have a slightly convex plane, I do by hand. Because that convex plane is a little more complicated and a little bit more difficult to deal with. And so I do that by hand because I can feel that better and get that angle just right and sharpen those ones up without issue more easily for me on the stones than I do on this one. On this one, the flat plane, it's real easy to index that flat plane right there, get it laying flat, and then just pull it across real quick. But with a convex blade, when I talk about convex, I mean that it comes to a point and then it curves out as it comes down, which gives a stronger spine to the knife. And a lot of Helveys are made that way, slightly convex planes. And not all of them are. Some of the detail blades are flat plane. I think their smallest detail blades flat plane. You can check with Rich or Holly Smithson whenever you're buying a knife from them, and they'll tell you exactly which ones are which. But the ones I have, the rough out knives I have, they have a slightly convex plane to them, or slightly convex blade. So on those ones I'm doing on the stones, and it's because of that blade type. And I've got my my Beckwith Forge is a slightly convex blade as well, so that one as well I'm sharpening on the stones if I got a chip at all. I don't often get chips, but if I do, that's where I go. And someone mentioned, like, how do you know if you got a chip? Run your fingernail across the back of the blade, and if you feel it clip or catch on something, that's a chip in the blade. And it's real easy to find out if you got one. On this one here, it's nice and smooth. I feel nothing. I'm just digging in the fingernail a little bit. But if you feel it catch on something, that's a chip in your blade. Resurfacing with new grit is pretty easy. Just apply some Elmer's glue, drip the grit over the top, and let it fall off. Save the excess, pour it back in the container, and then let it dry for 24 hours before trying to use it. So, final thoughts. Would I get this again? Yes, probably. I like having it here. I like having the option. I don't know that anyone strictly needs to have it. Definitely not a necessity, but it is nice to have. It works well when you know how to use it. And when it comes to redoing the surface of it, that's really rather easy. It's not complicated. And they give you so much of that material that even after using it and having refreshed it at least once already, I still have, you can see it's quite a large amount still left and ready to go. So I could theoretically be using this thing for years. As long as I take care of it, I don't see an issue with it. Like the MDF is never getting wet, which means that MDF is going to last forever. The other side is just using the rouge. And like I said, I've used it a lot, and I haven't used that much rouge at all because I've been using it steadily for 2 months. And every knife that I can sharpen, I have sharpened. I have sharpened coworkers' knives. I have sharpened my own knives, household knives. I've sharpened pocket knives. I've sharpened every knife I could get my hands on playing with this thing. I've sharpened gouges. I have sharpened terrible gouges that were just like destroyed that I bought off of eBay and whatnot that were used, trying to repurpose them and reuse them and seeing how I could do. And I haven't had any issues with it. Like it sharpens. You can't remove a lot of steel. If you're wanting to reprofile something, I had some Stubais that I was looking to reprofile. I had some Stubais I was looking to reprofile because they have a really big bevel, a lot big, much larger than this one is here right now, because this one's already been reprofiled. And so when you get them, if you haven't had them sharpened at the manufacturer, sharpened from the supplier who's giving them to you, they are a really large bevel on them. This is not going to help you remove that bevel. I tried to use it to do that, and all I did was eat away all of the grit on here, and it was gone. And yeah, that was it. So this is not a good option for reprofiling a large piece like that. It's a good option for sharpening, for removing a small amount of metal, but it will remove a small amount of metal really quickly. It will eat up a blade. A huge hunk of metal like this thing here is not the thickness of a blade, and so it's not going to work for reprofiling something. So don't try to do that with it. But if you're just going to look to sharpen a blade and to get rid of a nick or something like that in it, absolutely a great option for you. And that's all I've got for you today, folks. Thank you so much for sticking around and watching to the end of the video. Hey, if you want to help out the channel, you can do so by heading over to Etsy and buying some stickers. I got lots of stickers available. And I've got shirts and t-shirts and hoodies and hats available over on the website. So if you'd like to do that as well, you can do that as well. Other than that, folks, I really appreciate your time. Thank you so much for watching the video. Head over to Instagram, give me a follow over there, or Facebook, and then like the video, subscribe to the channel, and watch one of the other videos popping up the screen here. I'll see you next time. Bye.